welcome to the Power of 1 Million. I am so excited to introduce you to my guest here, Mahdi. He is the king of content, y'all. I'm so excited for this episode. But even more than just like knowing about content, I want to know who you are. So why don't you tell the people who you are?
Well, I guess first I need a crown if I'm the king of content, but I'm Mahdi Woodard. I am first and foremost, I would say, a corporate dropout. Like a lot of people in this era, we were doing well in companies, but thinking that we can do something bigger outside of that. And so I made a decision to bet on myself a few years ago. And since then, I've grown businesses and helped other people do the same for theirs. And now I'm the go-to person for really getting your messaging tight. And as you say, the king of content.
Yes. Now, question for you.
Yeah.
In that season, when you were feeling like you wanted to make a change, were there any things that particularly led to that decision?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was we brag about it, but we code switch so well that I don't think that we ever stopped to investigate should we have to. So I was having days where my work was fulfilling, but the structure and the process in which you have to go through to get it done was too much of a burden to carry every day. And so I started meeting people who were entrepreneurs. I had no desire to be one, didn't even really know what they did. But I started meeting people who were entrepreneurs who had more control over their time and more autonomy around their thoughts and the things they wanted to do. And I would say just sort of finding out about that world and stepping my toes into it was kind of what was a tipping point for me.
Now I know you have a quadrant philosophy around like entrepreneurship and around corporate and liking your job. What's that?
Yeah, quadrant? So I think like a lot of people, the biggest thing is that employees and entrepreneurs don't have to be opposites. So often it's like you can't do both. And I want to first break that fallacy for people because I think it's unrealistic. If we were all entrepreneurs, then we'd have no employees, right? So sometimes you have to do one thing to get to the other. But like the simple thing is it's a 4-box system, right? You got me?
I got you.
All right, cool. So the first thing is I don't like my job and I'm not really feeling this company. And that's where most people are feeling unfulfilled, so anything will do. So you meet a friend and they say, hey, I have a t-shirt business, or hey, I do content. And you're like, I can do that too, because I don't like anything I'm doing, right? But I call that the danger box because, again, your everyday is sort of not fulfilling. Other people fall in box two, where you actually like what you're doing. Maybe you're just not the best company or the best organization to do it. And so I think you got to have a hard conversation with yourself and say, can I look for a better situation in order to do what I do best, right? Another box that could be difficult, and you've led people, right, in organizations, and still now, people may like the organization, may not be in the best fit. So how do you sit down and have a conversation around, is there room for me to move inside of this organization to reach that peak fulfillment? And that's where we get to box 4, because you say you got me, you can count the 4 with me.
Right.
All right. But no, box 4 is, I love what I'm doing and I love where I'm doing it at, but something is still calling your name saying this entrepreneurship thing won't be put down. Or maybe people are calling you and they're asking for help or thoughts or suggestions. And even though you're happy at work, something else is sort of pulling at you. And I think for a lot of folks, if you've never gotten full fulfillment, you may not know if you're ready to do entrepreneurship yet. You're just unfulfilled where you are. But if you can get the box 4, which is rare, and still want to be an entrepreneur, I think you'll be set up for a lot of success.
So those are the people that should be entrepreneurs and maybe keep their job?
Yeah, I think, or the process of exiting, right? And so all the while you can be working on your business. What I guess I'm trying to say is a lot of people, they leave their jobs too soon off of the excitement of what it could be, right? So sometimes you got to build them at the same time. And then kind of like when you're merging on the interstate, right? So once your business is sort of doing a certain amount of revenue, you may decide to step out of your job so that you don't hit a big depression if you were to leave too soon. Yeah.
Did you hit a depression?
Yeah. I think the first one wasn't even a sort of physical, emotional. It was financial.
Really?
Because I remember calling my mom and I was telling her I was leaving, and she's like, Mahdi, you know, you don't do well with no money. Now, what's the plan? What you got going on? And I always tell people, some people do good with their back against the wall. I do good with my back against the wall with like $10,000 in between, right? A little cushion, right? So I didn't fully think through my exit. I was so excited about what could be. And my friends and I, we had just started a company, and we were doing what looked like a lot of money for a year one company. We're doing $20,000 months. And I'm thinking, well, if I bring all these skills I've learned from scaling businesses to our small business, this thing should shoot through the roof. But I wasn't really thinking about all the costs that go into business. I'm only looking at revenue and I'm looking at potential. I also didn't think about what my lifestyle was like. I'm used to making hundreds of thousands of dollars and spending at such a level. So I didn't have the discipline in place to really take advantage of that situation the right way. Yeah. Yeah.
I actually have never heard like the story of like how you managed your finances during that transition. Like, what would you tell new entrepreneurs that are coming from that corporate life and kind of spending to how to manage it now?
So the most beautiful thing is I want people to mimic what their life may look like before it actually gets there. But what does that mean? So let's say that you have $10,000 a month in income. But as you go into entrepreneurship, you may not be able to spend, let's say you spend $5,000 a month. That's your overhead. Well, you may not be able to spend that as an entrepreneur because you're reinvesting. So what would your life look like at a $2,500 a month or a $4,000 a month lifestyle while you're banking the rest? For some people, it means you might need to become a roommate or get one. For other people, the fancy car you're driving to work that you're using to feel good about this fancy job, well, that car is sort of a token of this job. Maybe you need to take it back. Get a cash car, right? Some of the biggest expenses are where we live, what we drive, and what we eat. Maybe you don't need to dine out every night. You haven't, in a humble way, you haven't earned that yet in your new life. You definitely have earned it in your current one. So I tell people before it's actually dire, try to mimic it for 90 days and see, can you stomach not going out to eat every day? Or can you stomach not going out to party with friends? Because that's very realistic of what your life may look like when you first step into entrepreneurship.
And was it part of your story where you had to go back home for a little while?
Was it? Yeah. So the cool part, I got to tell you the story before that, right? So I was imagine late 20s bachelor in Atlanta, fancy downtown loft, sports car. I had a garage door that opened up and walked into my living room. It was made for entertaining.
Okay.
Right. So nothing about me ever wanted to trade in this lifestyle. Right. And you said, what was my sort of financial plan and how did I do this whole thing? I won't say necessarily using the wrong advice. It was just incomplete. So I always thought cash is king, cash is king. So I was cash rich, but credit poor. Right. I didn't know anything about establishing personal credit, let alone business credit. I'm thinking as long as I've got a nest egg of cash and I can keep my expenses low, then I should be able to figure this thing out until business takes off, because it's only going to take 6 months, right? We're all going to blow up the first year.
You're amazing, so it's definitely going to work.
Yeah, so in between those spaces, you start realizing my burn rate is higher than what I'm replenishing it with. And so I didn't want to wait until I hit rock bottom. So I had to have that sort of humble phone call and like, Ma, I got to figure some stuff out. I'm thinking about moving in with a friend or this, that, and the third. And ultimately, she's like, Mahdi, I believe in what you're doing. Like, if you need to come home and regroup, you didn't fail. It doesn't make you a bad person, but do that, right? Minimize your expenses so that you can pour back into your business. And that ended up being one of the biggest gifts that set me up for success sort of over the years.
That's so cool.
It's humbling though.
I'm so glad that your mom said it's okay.
Yeah, it's humbling because I think I'm from Atlanta. I'm the first one in my family to graduate from college. I was a star athlete. For a lot of people, I would say like a hometown hero. And so you're on this pedestal that you didn't necessarily place yourself on, but you're comfortable being up there. So how do you make that adjustment to say, I know I was just in Europe. I know y'all used to seeing me, jet setting in South America, but now I'm at home in my old bedroom trying to figure it out, right?
Yeah.
So making some of those hard decisions, but I wouldn't change anything.
Walk me through how that feels, especially as like a black man. And I feel like there's quite a few men that are just like, I can't go home. Like, how do you, first, how are you feeling? Yeah. And then what would you tell other men in that position?
How was I feeling then?
Yeah, how was you feeling then?
I think you can't help but feel like there's an element of defeat in a sense, because so much of us are propped up on, think about it like this: go to school, get a good job with benefits, right? Get married, 2 kids, a dog, a fence. Like, we're all products of that story, as were our parents. So no one was saying, hey, by the time you guys grow up, there's going to be a thing called social media and you'll be able to go direct to consumer. We didn't have that language. So to have so much invested in that path, I would say more than anything, it was probably an identity crisis. I'm Mahdi the blah, 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 and I've got all these points with Delta and all these hotel points, and I go around the world. And now I'm saying, am I still this person, right? I just launched a campaign for this company that generated tens of millions. Can I do that for myself? Or is it them? Is it me or is it them, right? So I think some of those feelings, if I was giving advice to people, especially men, I would say you have to have a circle of folks that you can go to. And it's okay to not be able to go to one person for all the solutions. So you can have a spiritual coach or a pastor or someone that they just handle that part of life. And then you can have a business coach that says, hey, here's how you navigate the business world. But more than anything, before it gets to that point, the reason why I want people working on their business while doing the job piece or learning how to grow the business is so that you won't have to resort to those sort of, last minute things that I had to do.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
And I want to transition a little bit to because for the audience, I feel like I skipped straight over what to do.
Yeah.
What you do now. But before we move just then, are there any other times where you have felt that same level of defeat?
I don't know if I would say I felt the same level of defeat, but definitely times of fogginess and confusion. So, even now, like as my own boss or being a CEO, one of the things people don't realize is that we pay our staff and our team based on our ability to make good decisions. And there's a level of anticipating the future, but you've got to make a bet today for something that may or may not happen tomorrow. And so it's not necessarily defeatist, but it's definitely a very independent, lonely way to approach the world. So the dopest thing that I have now, here we're talking, but is a network of other people that have navigated these storms. So you can call and go, hey, Teri, what do I do in this situation?
Yeah.
And someone can confidently say, oh, that's normal. Do this and not that. Or, oh, you need a contract for that. Don't just do a handshake, right?
Yeah.
That would probably be the closest thing.
That's good. That's good. I feel like I often feel like in corporate, I had times where like I would have a boss and there would be like, I defeat probably the wrong word, maybe the identity crisis you were saying.
Yeah.
Like where I had to question myself, like, am I the problem here? Or why does every boss seem to have the same kind of issue? And then getting into work, you're right. Like at every level, you have to be something different. Like you got to be the content person. So if you have a flop in your product, okay, should I really be doing this? Then when you become a manager and a boss, then it's like, okay, this person is leaving or they're not, quite doing what I asked them to do. Is it me? Like, am I the wrong? Did I not train them right? Or did so many times I feel like we end up in those situations where it's like, I think I'm on the right path, but I'm really not sure. Hope this works out.
And it's holistic, right? So you brought up a very good point. We can have companies that are doing well revenue-wise, but culturally, they're still finding their fit. Or we can have an amazing culture, but we haven't really learned how to monetize or maximize yet, right? So sometimes I think the ability to compartmentalize as business leaders, super helpful, right? So in teaching, that part of my business model is relatively mature. But some of the things like moving into YouTube, right? I don't know where to start, right? So now I like it, right? It's sort of that ambiguity and making something out of nothing. But when you're first starting and you don't have the resources in place or you don't have what feels like a safety net, it can definitely be lonely at times.
For sure. Your community is everything. So now let's switch.
Let's do it.
So let's switch into Mahdi the expert. So, and I know I'll be hyping you up. You'd be like, Teri.
It's all good.
So tell us a little bit about what you did before in corporate, because I always am fascinated. You're like, I used to run these brands and da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
And then, let's start there. What you did in corporate?
So first, think about it this way. Anytime you go in a grocery store or you go into any major, big box store, everything that you see in there is by design. How does it get there? Why is it there? Why is the price? Why is it priced the way it's priced? Why is it in aisle 7 and not 12? All those things are meticulously sort of worked through, and somebody's responsible for those things. Back it up, those people are what we call brand managers, right? So them as well as an ecosystem of others. But it's our job, or it was my job. Look at this. I'm 6 years removed and I'm still about to clock in.
Our job.
But to think about the space between what is it that consumers want and need, what are our true capabilities, and then how do we come up with something and go to market, and what's that whole process look like? So some of the brands that I worked on that people will be familiar with, right? So Pedigree dog food brand at the time, it may still be, was the #1 dog food brand in the world. So what's their approach to nutrition for your pet? Papermate ink pens, it was the #1 writing brand in the world, right? Like it's sometimes a pen is a pen is a pen, but for others, it's like, hey, I like gel, I like ballpoint, I need a grip, right? So thinking about all these different people around the world and what do they best need.
Yeah.
What made those roles super amazing was you learn globally that everyone does not think like Americans. Even within America, right, the South is slightly different from the North, which is slightly different from the West. But how do you build out a global brand? How do you know what someone wants in Italy? And is it the right fit? So it's that thing at scale. But essentially, it boils down to doing research so that you understand the people, and then coming up with the right product or products, pricing them effectively so that you can give value to the customer while maximizing profit for you. Promotion, which is now being replaced by the word content. But how do you let people know that something exists that they can buy? My phrase is people can't buy what they've never heard of. A lot of people have great products, great offers. They're priced appropriately. No one's ever heard of it. Right. And then the last one is called place. But where can I find it? With a website, is it brick and mortar? But when we look at that system, we end up doing a thing called marketing.
Do you use that same system?
I use the same
in
system.
Instagram and all the other platforms?
Yeah. Same system. So
how do you do that?
First thing is, who are the people that we're talking to? So if you say, hey, I'll use your business as an example. If someone is brand new to trading versus if someone is experienced, when those people change, the language may need to change. I saw you earlier talking about something when it's high and something when it's low, right? I'm using the word something, but there's a word for it or there's a strategy for it. So when you understand the people, you can better set them up with the right product. Maybe I should start with a beginner's guide. Maybe I should start with an introduction into versus someone that's more seasoned. So we're all doing it. We just don't know we're doing it, or we may not coin it this way, right? And then you just work your way down. But the biggest thing becomes, how do we talk to folks so that it resonates with them and they know that it's for them?
Okay.
And that's where the language around promotion, or in this case, content, ties back to the people that you're trying to serve.
Got it. And then with your, well, not like with your style.
Yeah.
Because I know, like, there was one post and you were like, look, everybody done gone to my style. They all try to do it. These black and white posts.
Yeah.
What did you see when you started doing something different on the scene?
All right. Can I be nerdy?
Yeah.
All right. So the first thing was understanding that branding is about standing out, but not just catching attention for the sake of it. At the core, we all have basic human needs. We got food, water, shelter, etc. And people, businesses are trying to fulfill those needs. So the person who can, or the company or the entity that can best service it wins, right? That's this whole business game we're playing. Okay. So within branding, you want to go where either the competition is few or where you can go gobble up the rest of the competition. So I was one day just looking at Instagram, and I would group content into every 5 posts. And I saw a theme emerging, which was photos and videos were 4 out of 5 of the posts. And only one thing was like I call the written word, be it a quote or a carousel, something like that. And so I said, I can speak on video, sure. I'm halfway photogenic, but I can actually write. So the competition is fewer where people are writing. So now if you've been looking at 2 videos or 6 pictures and now you see some words, it's actually refreshing because it's like, oh, this is different. Let's see what this is about. So the first thing I did was go to where the competition was few. And then I said, well, what is everybody doing? They're doing bright colors and things are popping and twisting and swirling and turning around, and videos are doing all these amazing things. What if I cut through all of that and just went to white and black so that you can just focus on the message? What if I eliminated all of the, I'd say, right? All of that. Because the bigger part, Teri, was I wanted to teach people that they could do content. And if I use all of my marketing brains and all of my money to do the best thing in the world, people may assume that they have to do that to break through. So I said, what if I just do white and black? You can do that, right? Black and, when I get sexy, I'll do black and white, right? But you can do this. Let's just focus on the message. But then it sort of worked so effectively that everybody else was like, you know what?
Now you go to the 5 and it's like 3 out of 5.
Right,
White and
right.
black.
So the cool part, I got a design team. We're working on a rebrand. So we're going to keep the best of the elements, but then make things unique and ownable. So you'll know that it's coming from me and not a copycat. No shade to the other people, but you know.
Now that you've moved from corporate to entrepreneurship,
Yeah.
what do you wish that you had known then that you know now?
A lot of things. I think on the mindset side, it's whenever we were in jobs, like you sort of know you're responsible for your career, but they got all these maps about how long you should do this role and what education you need for that thing. And so you're kind of still dependent on them to help shape your trajectory. This thing over here is the Wild Wild West. You can be whoever you actually want to be and whoever you commit to be and work to be, right? So I wish I would have known to just take control of my life and my destiny and not look for a cosign or not look for validation where it wasn't necessary. A lot of us, we've got strong skills. We just don't actually stand and take up space. So that would be first.
Okay.
The second thing is practice what you preach, which is really get to understand the people that you're serving and at what point in their business. I'm smirking because I know what's coming next. I was so excited to do entrepreneurship and to help people think through their businesses that I missed one critical step, Teri.
What?
I was helping people who still had jobs. I quit my job to be available all day, but people weren't available till the evenings and the weekend anyway. And so when I say I would have done some things differently, I didn't know about VAs. I didn't know you could hire someone to help book out your calendar and manage your appointments. But I literally, not that we should always drive responsibly, but I could have been driving to work and doing coaching calls or on my lunch break or in between at the airport, in the Delta Lounge, wherever. Yeah. I just didn't think like that. I thought I had to mentally say, all right, universe, I'm all in. And then physically, I'm at your disposal. So whenever someone could possibly call, I need to be available. Yeah. I didn't understand I could set up a framework that worked best for me, like that would also serve my clients.
Like it doesn't have to be all or none.
Correct.
Absolutely. It can be both.
Yes, it can be both.
Now, okay, so you know how I get into all the little creeks and crannies. Yeah. So I know that part of your journey was like having to break away from a partner. Mm-hmm. What was that like? So I would say there's multiple steps of thinking about it. First, I'll back up. And that's connected to the other problem, or not the problem, the other thing I wish I would have known, which is some stuff you got to do by yourself, for yourself, and not in a selfish way, but in a developmental way. I'm coming from playing team sports, and I worked in group projects, and in marketing, we worked as a group. And so my entire life was around group and consensus and how do we all be happy as we charge along. I didn't have an identity for Mahdi, the person with his own vision and what he wanted. It was always a shared vision. So it was tough. I've been in 2 different business situations where I ended up having to exit. So one was we actually lost a business partner tragically. And there's no way you can prep for that. But for the betterment of each person, we had to make a decision to kind of break apart and do our own things. And then the second situation, we were building a company that was interdependent, right? So I needed my skill set plus their skill set. But then life comes. So I'm a person that sometimes I forget about the personal stuff. I can just work all day. So we had a difference in personal demands, business demands, and where we saw ourselves going, and ultimately had to part ways because of those things. Knowing what I know now, I wish I would have learned how to have harder conversations up front, more structured conversations around how do we set systems in place so that it doesn't have to be a break, right? Sometimes you just need a vacation. Yeah. But what do you do if you go on vacation and the person doesn't know how to do your job, right? You're just kind of stuck there. So I would tell people, if you're doing any type of partnerships or joint ventures,
bring those conversations to the forefront, create an operating agreement on how things move within the company, create some type of partnership agreement, and then collectively cross-train each other. So there were things I learned in corporate I just didn't use, right? So how do I log into the system, or how do I put out content? And that'll help people so that they don't feel fully wed to the other person or to the other groups. Yeah.
What do you think are like 3 things they need to include in that contract, or a couple points?
So first is super clarity on the roles. We know a lot of times things can be ambiguous, as we often have to wear a lot of hats, but as tight as you can get it, right? So if Teri's responsible for advertising and email marketing, and I'm responsible for product performance and, increasing sales, let's spell those things out and we can revise them as more information becomes available.
Yeah.
The other thing would be, what's our plan for exit? So there are some cases where, let's say we're 50-50 partners. I want to build a $100 million company. You're fine building a $10 million company. How do we go ahead and prepare for that so that we don't end up, I'm not dragging you, or you're not asking me to bail prematurely, right?
Yeah.
So let's spell out what the different ways that we can exit. We can sell a company. Again, someone may end up leaving a company. Are they allowed to buy stock? Are they cashed out? Those types of things. They're hard conversations, but they're necessary conversations. So I would say first is sort of roles and responsibilities. The other things are, well, what do we do and how do we prepare for an exit?
Yeah.
And then the third thing would be, and this one is hard, how do we think about growth? Are we willing to include others? So if we're 50-50 partners, but we realize we're missing someone, that means that you got to give up some equity, and so do I. Do we want to? Are we willing to? What does that look like?
Smart.
Really, really tough conversations. If we needed to get private investors, do you want to grow organically? I want to grow from outside. You want to grow from inside. How do we work through this stuff so that ultimately our tough points don't break the company apart?
Yeah.
We can go ahead and anticipate them, because these are the cycles of growth for all companies.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Like, it's not like your company is the only company around. There's been many companies before you, and you can use those examples to kind of think through what you should do in the front end on yours. Do you think it's even a good idea to have a partner?
Yes and no. I think it depends on what you're trying to accomplish. So for a lot of businesses now, it's unrealistic to have all those different levels of expertise in one person. All right. So if you have a physical goods company, I think that's a great one to have a partner, because someone needs to be closer to product development, engineering. How does the thing actually work that we're selling? And it could be something as small as a candle company, or as large as you guys patenting some type of equipment or something. But someone needs to have technical expertise on the product. Someone else needs to have expertise on how we monetize it, right? So in those cases, absolutely necessary to consider it. Not a mandatory, but I would say those are probably the best cases. If you are in the service base, I don't think that you may necessarily look for a partner, but you may look for, how do I get the additional things I need for growth?
Okay.
So maybe I'm open to investment, or maybe I'm open to equity. It just doesn't come with partnership level decisions. A lot of folks, because I'm at the ground level, Teri, interacting with like, hey, I just started my LLC and where do I go? So a lot of people don't understand the different levels that come with growing your business. And they're blindsided when they realize that they need to go raise $30,000 and a person wants part of their company for it, right? Yeah. But I would say if you can tackle it by yourself, at least it gives you the discipline to see what you're made of. And it gives you the humility to appreciate, you know what? I ain't good at this other side. If I had a partner, I'd yield some equity. I'd yield some control in order to get a bigger thing later, right?
That makes sense.
I heard someone make a joke on Clubhouse, but it was really cool. And they were like, when thinking about partnerships, right, the collective sum needs to be better than individual. So would you rather have half a watermelon or a whole grape, right?
Yeah.
So in that case, sometimes it's necessary to grow a bigger pie. Yeah.
Very true. In my mind, I was like, but I like grapes.
I like grapes too.
Grapes. Okay, so random shift. This is kind of like this is what you just talked about, but slightly different.
Okay.
So you said you always used to work in teams and you were good at teams. So do you feel like that'll be the same in your relationships?
Yes and no, right? As always, the best answer is it depends. But I think in full like family unit where there's, for me, I'm heterosexual, so there's husband, wife, and kids. I'm probably better at that than just the husband, wife part that leads to the kids. But I think within entrepreneurship, you have to have a person that understands the ambition and understands the calling, because it's not just the money for me. I'm thinking, what if I do like use all of my God-given gifts? How amazing could we improve this world? Because I get the DMs of people saying, hey, I took your course, I made $30,000, I'm able to hire somebody. Or, hey, I quit my job to do this full time. Or, hey, I just did. So you're actually changing the trajectory of people's lives by virtue of you walking in your purpose. So the first part is I need somebody to understand that. And I'm going to be over here for the foreseeable future, right? And there are times where the days get long, or there are times where whatever was on the schedule tomorrow, it ain't there anymore. A lot of times with work, you just go to work, you go to happy hour, and I'm not, ragging on people with jobs, but like a lot of times you're in that routine versus over here, we may sit down and have a conversation and be like, hey, let's investigate that. You want to look into that? Like, let's start a new business. Let's see what happens. And it sounds crazy to people that are not entrepreneurs. But I would say the skills I think will serve me best as we grow and develop. You used to be a principal. I have strong point of views around education and young people and what I want to be able to facilitate as a parent. So as long as we can kind of co-create a system, it should work pretty smooth.
I had this one guy, this is to your point, but I had this one guy I was talking to, and I was telling him about how people really need my course. It's needed. And he tried to correct me, and he was like, well, people don't need it. And as an entrepreneur, I'm sitting here thinking about all the testimonials and all the people who've reached out and said, wow, this has changed my life. You don't know how much my whole financial journey has been changed. I'm like, no, those people needed this. But his mindset was, people don't need that. So it's similar to what you were saying. Like sometimes people don't understand. So you're gonna need somebody in a relationship that gets that part. They get the testimonials of the 30,000. They get the testimonials of quit your job. Which, by the way, I hope you know that your value is high, because if somebody used your product and made 30,000, your price is now 30,000. Just FYI.
That's note to self and others.
And they quit their house, you'd be like, oh, how much did you used to make? Oh, 6 figures. Your price is now 6 figures.
Hello.
Quit their job and use your product. So that's really good. Now, okay, so we're switching again.
I'm not going to ask you about relationship stuff. I'm not interviewing. That's right. I'm
fine, Mahdi. What you want to know? What you want to know about relationship stuff?
As a person, seriously, because in a lot of ways, I'm walking down a path that you've blazed for us, right? What are the things that you consider when just thinking about partnership that way? Like, what should someone who has the similar ambitions, who can kind of see where revenue is moving, what things should I be thinking about at this stage? That sort of, now that you have the benefit of walking the path, like what advice would you give me in that?
I think, so I'm still figuring it out.
Okay.
I don't know all the things.
Okay.
But a couple of things I have figured out is that, one, I'm going to need someone who's able to celebrate me and I'm able to celebrate him. Like I can foresee, and not just in where I am right now, but in where I'm going. Because me, even a year or two ago, is not me today. So like when they meet me, they've got to know, like they have to be able to dream bigger for me and then be able to say, can I celebrate that person? Like where she's going. So right now I'm not on huge stages in front of thousands, but I need him to be able to visualize that and say, can I support her if we're in a football stadium full of people and they're all there to see her? Can I sit on the front row and cheer my baby on? You know? So I think that's going to be super important, super valuable. And the same for me. I got to be able to see further for the person that I date and then think, can I handle sitting and cheering for him while he does his thing in front of It might be thousands of people, or it might be while he's building something. Can I sit on the sideline while he has to go in this room for hours and not talk to me because he's building? Right? So being able to like really say like it's not about me, like it's really about that other person. I think both for me and whoever I date, we're gonna have to be able to do that. Yeah.
I think I'll just stay single. No, I'm kidding.
I think that's crucial. Other things that I've found, it's not gonna, they have to be somebody where it's not about the money, because especially in my case, like money comes, and I don't want to say easily, but like it flows, and you know you do this launch, and all of a sudden people are sending you, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars, or I do this trade, and all of a sudden there's hundreds of thousands of dollars. Y'all at 8, I'm sorry. But if it's about the money and he's motivated by money, then I think he won't be able to see me. He's going to see the dollars, he's going to see the success, and he won't think about the woman who needs to be nurtured, who just gave everything, and she needs to be filled or cared for. So I think that's going to be crucial. He can't be somebody that's about the money. And then the same for me too. Like I can't be about the look or the success or whatever. Like it can't be external. It's got to be about him, who he is, who, you know, how he's feeling. Can I care for him? So I think that's also going to be important.
Yeah, it's critical. I think one of the things I think about is, and I was talking about family and kids, because I look at the people who have done big things in the world, and it comes with a cost. And a lot of times they're not able to be physically present at every event or physically present for the first walk. Some people weren't even able to be present when the child was being born. They were in the middle of a football game or in a business deal. And there are elements of, because for a lot of us, we're first generation in this thing, trying to figure it out. We don't have mom, grandma, great grandma and how they did it. But one of my worries are like, am I trading in being present and sort of being here for the world? Do I lose that presence in the family? And can I stomach that, right? Either way, like, can I reduce my ambition to be more physically there? Or do I lose some physical time in order to be of service to the world? So that's a tough one too.
I feel you on that. I think what I love though is that we're in a place where we get to decide what our season looks like. So it might be that in this season I'm grinding, but in the next season, if I need to be there for a family member, I can. Like there was a time where my grandmother had gone to the hospital, and like the only person, like I was in grad school at the time, but the only person that could get to the hospital fast enough was me. But I also didn't have a job. Well, I mean, I was doing my own business, but I didn't have to go into a job. So it was easy for me to get there and go sit with her. Like we have the ability to make those decisions and like be flexible in a way that others don't.
I think that's one of the beauties in entrepreneurship. Just a lot of times I say all I need is Wi-Fi, right? And I can kind of do enough danger from there.
So I mean, maybe there is a time where we're going for everybody else, and then maybe there's a time where, hey, it's about me right now.
I love it.
Yeah. First of all, this was your interview, not my interview. No, I'm just playing.
I mean, hey, gotta get out of the game while we're here.
Okay, so other things that we need to talk about. What else we need to talk about, Mahdi?
I think we covered a lot. I think for the audience that's listening, what content things can I pour into them? What do you think they need? I feel like I haven't taught enough, and I'm like, I got more to give. What are the people listening? What do they need?
Most of the people listening are coming for inspiration. They need to see other people that look like them. I think part of it is it really possible to get to this level? So maybe first speak to that, and then we can talk to content.
So I think it's beyond possible, right? It's yes. That my answer without a doubt is yes, it's possible. The difference is, and it's sort of where we were just leaving off, everything still comes with a trade-off. And I think the biggest thing, there was a quote that went like viral years ago, and it's sort of along the lines of, what are you willing to give up? Or your new life is your old life. Your new life is going to cost your old life. But I don't think that people understand what that means. Like, your new life will cost you your old life. And for people, most people's old life is average. I'm very serious about math. Most people were average kids, average students, average in their extracurriculars, average if they went to college, average performing adults. And now you want to move into entrepreneurship and you want to be the top 10% or the top 1%. But you've built this off of average. You got to break average. You got to get past that. To make $100,000 for most people is top 10%. To get to million, top 1%. You mean to tell me if I put you in a room with 99 other people, you would be the one that would step forward in any given scenario? Like, do you understand what, you got me excited. Like, do you understand what's required? And are you willing to do that? I think there is private time that people don't see. I love when you 11, 12 years mastering how to trade. Years.
Yeah.
Don't just come for the glitz and the glam now. Like, are you built of this? One of my favorite writers is Seth Godin. And he says that people always say, I'm a bad writer. And he say, well, show me your bad writing. I should be able to see it, right? So in my case, show me your failed content ideas, show me your failed business ideas, show me the thing that you made and you didn't quite figure out how to get the hinge to work the right way. Don't just fail in your mind. Actually become a practitioner of the thing and say, I want to go past these other 9 to be top 10%. I want to go past these other 99 to be top 1% and see if you made of it. So I'm not going to give the cookie cutter answer of yes, it's possible. It's possible if you're willing to do the work.
Yeah.
Here's the dopest part. We're out here every day leaving you all the breadcrumbs. 10,000 hours, 12 years of mastery, right? For every one thing I post, there's 3 to 5 that I create. Are you built of this? If you are, life and everything that can come of it becomes amazingly abundant. Amazingly abundant. And we were having not to previous conversation, but when we were just saying, hey, you may extend your trip. A lot of people don't have that option. They've had to plan for 9 months and save, right? And if they were to extend everything in their life breaks.
Yeah.
Abundance is being able to say, I like the energy of the space I'm in and the people that I'm around. I'm going to extend the trip. I'll deal with the cost later. The value is worth more than the cost.
Yeah.
But we're not going to get to top 10% and top 1% doing whatever we've been doing.
Not ever.
And so you got to find somebody, a model, be it in your family, be it on social media, be it something from the world that's went beyond great, and mimic and model yourself into those traits become second nature. Yeah, so it's doable, but you're going to put some work in.
That's good. Now, you are known to jack people's edges on IG.
Yeah.
So I want you to tell me, I know you probably know by heart your top 30, but one of your top pieces of content, what was the message behind it?
So I'm going to give a secret, right? So a lot of the themes of things that go well, content that goes well, the theme is the same. So there's one theme that faith without works is
Dead.
Right? So I'll take that as a theme, but change the way it comes to life, right? So don't just talk to me about what you're planning. Show me the work that you're doing, right? There's a reel that went viral for a lot of people about starting from the bottom, like show me the bottom, right? You should be able to have days, weeks, and years of the process, of the progress, right? So for me, I don't have to create an original message. I borrow from the best language around the world, and I make it applicable to a situation that we find ourselves in. So I had one piece of content that went bananas. I think that one piece of content brought in, I want to say, 5,000 new followers. Whoa. Off of one piece of content, which is crazy.
I was gonna say, and that's big. Right?
Yeah, that's what.
Like 1-2 followers.
So let's give it. Here goes numbers, right? 50% of, and you'll use Instagram. 50% of people have less than 1,000 followers. 90% have less than 10,000. Wow. So imagine having one post that brings in 5,000, right?
Wow.
But inside of that post, it was about, there was me being how I am.
You
but
can cuss if you need
I'm
to.
not gonna. I'm gonna do well. I'm gonna do well. We're in the presence of the Lord's child, and I'm still in development. But no, I talk to people about the things that we would normally give up on. So I talk about making room for who you want to be, right? But like, put on the running shoes and exercise yourself back into good health. Go grab the paintbrush and paint your way to success. Stop thinking that if you don't do all of your part, you should still get all of the rewards. Do everything within your power to show up. I don't always have something to say every day, but I get up, I grab my computer or my notebook, I put something in my hand, and I submit to the universe and say, if you got something that can come through me, now would be a time, right? There are other days where it's firing. But if I don't put my hands on the keyboards, how dare I think I should be able to have a word come to me? If I don't just start writing and be willing to get it wrong and be willing to scratch out things, how dare I expect 50,000 people, 100,000 people to circulate a message and I didn't even want to show up for it? You know what I mean? So we don't always get the promise by doing the work every time. But in showing up, that's where you end up getting the benefits you're looking for. Folks want to go viral. People want to sit back and go, I don't want to do nothing, but I want to make one piece of content and it goes viral. Mm-hmm. Viral comes from the quantity. Do enough work and one piece will go viral.
Just keep showing up.
Keep showing up. Yeah. Wow. When people say I snatch edges, here's what I do. I talk to us, for a lot of folks, in the same voice that they talk to themselves in, which is a little more stern, a little more hardcore. Like we all know what we need to do.
Yeah.
I'm that voice for you, right? And I'll do it publicly, but I'm also talking to me. And so I think the secret is that I don't view my community as I'm on the stage and they're in the audience. Mm-hmm. I view us in a circle and it's right now just my turn to talk. But then I'm going to pass the mic to somebody else and they become the person speaking. So it's not a me and them, it's just a us. And I use that voice to get my message across.
Talk to the camera, tell them something they need to hear in this.
It's a cliche, but I'm very serious. Everything is up to you. I don't mean it to X out God. I'm not saying X out the people that support you. But I'm saying if you don't push yourself to the last limit of what you think is possible, it's unfair to ask someone else to pick up the slack. Why would I go 80 and expect Teri to go 20? Mm-hmm. Like, why is that fair? So what does it actually look like to give your all to something? Most people, do you realize most people have never given their all to something?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And
so we develop systems, and in some ways we bad. You get a hand slap too. Because we're trying to help, we develop systems that people can use as a shortcut. Mm-hmm. Because here's the dopest part. If I follow what you teach and I do the practice, right? I put the shots up in the gym. By virtue of your wisdom and by virtue of your expertise, it shouldn't take me 12 years to get to the same level of mastery. But even in doing that, let's say if it takes me 6, they want to get it in 6 months. That's unrealistic. That's unfair, right? We're developing amazing systems that work. The least that people can do is follow the process all the way through. Don't just pick out the good parts. We can see the back end. Oh, you clicked on module 2. Exactly. And you opened up 3% of module 4, right?
But it ain't working.
It ain't working. You ain't working.
Literally.
Right? Call me and say, I'm on page 82. I'm trying to make sense of this and this, and I'm stuck.
I finished it. I went through it twice.
Right?
I watched the replay again, and I just don't understand this piece. Then I got you.
Right. I can actually, and we all can, you can hear in the question how much work a person has done.
Yes. Yes, you can.
Because their examples are different. Where they're stuck at is going to be different. And they can't cheat that. Yeah. The terminology, everything will be different if you've done the work. And so those DMs, they stand out. Those emails stand out because I can see the work. Mm-hmm. I can go click back on your page. I tell people to put out 3 pieces of content per day. Why, Teri?
Yeah, tell me why, because sometimes I don't want to.
I tell people to put out 3 pieces of content per day because most people have not mastered messaging. If you didn't study marketing, communications, or PR, you don't know how to put out a message that motivates a person to respond. When you plan on learning? On your whiteboard? No, you got to learn in public, right? And I know it feels bad to not get high engagement. And I know it feels bad to, right? But like, if you don't do the work, you don't actually get better at it. But my system is simple. Start with 3 pieces of content per day, because one will do better than the other 2, right? And do it again tomorrow. At the end of the week, you got 21 pieces of content, but 7 have done really well. 14 not so well. Divorce yourself from the things that didn't do so well and set the bar against this new 7 going into week 2. Once you ended up in a space like that, you don't have to do 3 per day for the rest of your life. You can pick and choose because you've mastered messaging. Do you know how to say something that'll get a person to like or comment or share or save or buy? Those are different words that you got to use that moves a person to take a different type of action. And most of us, we don't know this stuff, right? I'm not like, just use someone. You've been a dental hygienist, and now you want to start a t-shirt company. Nowhere in there, unless you study communications, would you know how you need to speak to people. And so it's for me, it's about practice. Yeah. It's also about mastery. I think what I admire about you, and we joke about privately, is like, some of y'all teaching too soon. Yes. Right? You start student, but start student still got to go to, practice teacher, still got to, right? TA, something greater. Right. But I think in that, though, one of the things that I love bringing back into the conversation, and I think the thing that separates when you start talking about millions, there's a level of mastery that comes with it. If you didn't just inherit it, you understand value. You understand how to look at a market and figure out if there's demand, and how to productize something that's of value that ends up sort of the default thing is that we trade currency, and it stacks up to become millions. But underneath all of that is mastery.
See, there's when you were saying that you can tell how much the work someone's done by their question, there's actually this, like, one of my favorite parts of the Bible is this story where a centurion man asked Jesus to heal his daughter, but his daughter was in a different city. Okay. And he asked Jesus to heal his daughter, and Jesus says, "Oh, okay, well, sure, I'll come with you." And he's like, "No, you actually can heal her from here. Just speak a word, and she'll be healed." And he says, "This man has the biggest faith that I have ever seen." And I've always wondered, like, all he did was ask you to heal his daughter. Why this guy? Why is he the one that has the most faith? But I realized that his faith showed up in his question. The fact that he asked God to heal his daughter who was in a different city means that he thought that Jesus could have all power to heal, that he was all knowing because he knew what the daughter needed, even though she was in a different city. He hadn't seen her. Yeah. But this guy believed that Jesus knew everything. Yeah. He also knew that God was in all places.
So, omnipresent. Come on.
So now you're all powerful, you're omnipotent, you're all knowing, you're omniscient, and then you're all powerful. You can change the molecules. This guy knew that Jesus was God, because that's the only person who could have those things. But Jesus knew all of this just by the question he asked. And so, like, to your point of how you can know how much work someone's done, and even how much faith they have, all type of things by their question. Questions are so powerful. So powerful. That's so cool. Well, I said that's cool, but it's more so.
No. Yeah.
I love what you said about the question.
Absolutely. I think what made it cool is sometimes these things lay dormant in us, right? And it's the right conversation that activates it all. So you being able to pull that was cool, right? I ain't got it. I want to need a cheat sheet or something, like, what city were they in? So I'm gonna have to, if you see me use that on talk, just know.
Boy, go in your content. Just say my friend who beat me in pool.
Allegedly. You are on record scratching on the 8 ball.
This is true, y'all. He beat me in pool, but I just haven't been able to.
The reason why I beat you, right? You're actually really good. It's the lucky lefty piece. But you said if you won, I had to give you 30 days of free content. And you just said the price went up, and those things, the math wasn't mathing. All right, so I had to go ahead and win the pool game. I didn't want to play myself.
I feel like that's still necessary. The 30 days of content. I feel like that's just.
I think we can have your people call my people. You know, I think we can work something out.
Oh goodness. Well, is there anything else that you think that people should know?
I mean, I think we've done a good job. I would say just don't. For a lot of times, you got to hear something twice for it to stick.
Yeah.
So there's something in here that, like, I don't want people to log off at the 17-minute mark thinking that they heard something.
Yeah.
Get the full context. Let it sort of replay. And hopefully I've left something here that is of benefit to the audience. But I feel good about the conversation. Yeah.
You snatched some edges.
With love, though. With love. Yeah. Everything is at Mahdi Woodard. So do I need to look here? Fancy camera? Sure. MahdiWoodard. So that's me on Instagram, LinkedIn, all the places. The only way anyone is here is by invitation. Yes. So I appreciate the invitation and the challenge to go back and work harder so that I can get invited again. But thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Mahdi.
I like your Jordans too.
Thank you. I like yours.
You know what I'm saying? Little shot.